Can you remember the feeling you had when you got your first ever smartphone? I can remember. It was just this amazing tool. In fact, here it is, my first ever smartphone. I put on big screen because actually I've also still got it here. And when you click on it, it's this lovely, that reassuring noise of a 3G click that turns on. I'm not going to say I was in love or I was obsessed, but look at his little face. Oh, my precious. And it never left my side for a long time. And then I became one of the world's first specialist social media consultants. And unfortunately, that meant that actually I had to spend lots of time on social media and lots of time on my smartphone. In fact, probably more time than I ever really needed to spend on either of them. I reckon I was probably spending around 12 hours a day on my phone around that sort of time. And then iPads came out, and then it was new digital love. Oh, just incredible times. Loved it so much. But then what happened was I co-founded a charity called Positive Social. And Positive Social goes into schools and helps young people make better decisions about how they use social media, which included spending less time on it and living more of a fuller life than they were behind their screens. Now, during one of the sessions, a teacher called out to me, Mr. Saxby, she said, I love being called Mr. Saxby, it sounds very exciting. And she said, Mr. Saxby, how long do you spend on your phone every day? Thinking I was going to set this amazing example. Now, remember, I'd gone from 12 hours. So for me, when I said 2 hours, I thought that was good. And her face fell. And I realized that wasn't the answer she was looking for. Now, we've always had a tricky relationship with technology. Anybody remember this? MSN Messenger? Any MSN Messenger? Yeah, a few nods around here. It was like an early form of like a WhatsApp, but on a computer. And I was working at the BBC at the time, and I was the news editor of a radio station. And I promoted a guy called Colin to be the breakfast producer. So the breakfast producer is the person who puts together the show for the following day. And he hated his promotion. Mark, I don't want to be promoted. I don't want to do this job. And I asked him why. And he said, because I never get away on time. And I thought, I wonder why. Maybe it's because he's not very good at managing his team, or maybe he's not got good processes in place. But I watched him. And what would happen is he'd be writing a script, and then ping, message would come up on MSN Messenger. And he replied to the message. He'd go back to his script writing, ping, back and forth again. And this went on, ping, 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 ping. It was like being in a Cleethorpes amusement arcade. All this tinging all the time. And I said to him, Colin, if you want to get away from work on time, you need to do one thing. You need to close down MSN Messenger. He was doubtful, but he agreed to try it. Next morning, in comes Colin. Oh, Mark, it worked. I got away on time. Well, it wasn't really hard to work it out. But what I'd like all of us to do today is to be more Colin. So if I told you that by listening and putting into action this talk today, you're going to be more productive at work, you're going to enjoy better mental health, and you're going to enjoy an increased satisfaction in your job, would you be interested in hearing more? So far in our pilots, 60% of people have reported better mental health and better job satisfaction after putting into action Be More Colin. So what do we do? Where do we get to this situation in life where technology took over so much? Well, you've probably seen the same as me, where in every situation, people are obsessed by their mobile phones. You go to a counter to pay your bill at a restaurant, and you try and pay, and the girl behind the counter, she's staring at a mobile phone. You've got to get her attention. Or you're in a business meeting, and the person you're talking to decides it's more important to answer their ringing phone call, which says unknown caller on, than they are to actually carry on the conversation with you. And then worst of all, it turns out to be the window cleaner. Or the worst thing I've seen is the lollipop lady near my house, and she gets her lollipop, and I'm doing a great job. She walks across the road, and she lets the children let through. And then as she's going back towards the side of the curb, she's already getting out her mobile phone to check Instagram or whatever else she's checking. It's not healthy, is it? It's not good, and it's not really where we want to be. And yet research shows us that actually we're all pretty bad at managing our time on our mobile phone. In fact, it shows that the average person spends 2 hours a day using their personal mobile for personal things during the working day. 2 hours a day lost to productivity, lost on our phones. So think about that. That's 10 hours a week? That's already sounding quite a lot, isn't it? So in a year, 470 hours a year. Now, I did some rough calculations, and there's more people in the room than I expected, which is great. But even if there was only 50 of us or so in the room who were actually on the average, we'd be wasting 3,357 days a year to our mobile phones, being unproductive, procrastinating, wasting our time on our mobile phones. That's not really, I would say, a great figure for us to do, but it's no wonder. It's no wonder, because doctors liken our addiction to social media, the effects of it, to that of crack cocaine users. We have become a nation of digital crack addicts. In fact, doctors have even got a new term for it. It's called nomophobia, the fear of being detached from our mobile phones. Do you shake when you accidentally leave your phone at home? My 20-year-old son does. If I take his phone off him, he shakes even if it's on the other side of the table. Does anybody here 45 or 45-ish or 44, 43? Yep. So the average user spends 6 hours a day on their mobile phone. This here tells you if you carry on at your current rate, if you're using 6 hours a day, you would spend the next 6 years of the remainder of your life on your phone. 6 years. My son, I'd say 20, he was spending 10 hours on his phone a day. We did the same calculation. You can try that out later on if you want to. He's going to lose 26 years of his life on his mobile phone. So, how can we be more Colin? What's the reason why? Why do we need to be more Colin? I mean, okay, yes, we're talking here about spending less time on our phone. Maybe we like spending time on our phone. Maybe that's something that's good for us. Well, let's look at the effects it's having. And the first effect is on productivity. How much productivity are we losing to time on our mobile phone? So I'm going to do a little experiment. What I'm going to do, is there any accountants in the room? Got anybody who's good at counting? Yep, a few people. Yeah, okay, right. What I'm going to do, I'm going to ask us all to count to 26. I'm going to time it. Okay, right. I'll start it off to keep us going, and then we get to 26. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 23, 24, 25, 26. That was 26 seconds. Incredible that you counted according to seconds. Right, okay, let's do the same thing again, this time with the 26 letters of the alphabet. Okay, so A, B, C, D, E, F, G, V, W, X, Y, Z. You guys are great. Well, I mean, who could tell that many of you left school, 60, 70 years ago? Now, what I'd like to do is I'd like to mix the two tasks together. I'd like to go 1A, 2B, 3C, and so on and so forth. Okay, right, go again. So 1A, 2B, 3C, 4D, 5E, 6F, 7G, 8H, 9R. Well, that didn't last long, did it? That didn't last long. And of course, the reason why that's so difficult is because we're task switching. We're mixing two tasks up. And what that does, of course, it affects our productivity. I've left my prop in the corridor. Hang on. What did I go to get again? I can't remember. What was it? And that's the thing about going into a room. When you walk into a room and you go in there for a particular purpose, maybe to find your keys or to pick up something, and you walk in there and you think, what did I go in there for? I can't remember. It's because the door frame has acted as a reset. So it's reset your brain, and therefore then, because your brain's thinking you're into a new environment, then you've got to start all over again. And it's the same with our phones. When we pick up our phone, we're resetting our brain, and we have to start again. Now, if you think about it, if people are taking around 15 minutes to really kind of reset, to get back into your task again, for some of us, we're never fully effective through our entire working day. Never fully effective. And that's not good, is it? That's not good at all. And in fact, if you get to the end of the week and you feel tired, even though you slept well, you've not worked any extra hours, then actually it could be because you're doing too much task switching. Or second screening, again, has a similar effect. They did some research where they looked at people standing on a podium. and in athletics, after an athletics event, looked at the gold, silver, and bronze medalists to see who looked the happiest. So, who do you think looked the happiest out of gold, silver, and bronze? Gold, absolutely, of course, it's the gold. They've won the gold medal, why wouldn't they? Who'd be second happiest? Well, not silver, because actually, what did the silver want to really get? The gold. Their second happiest was the bronze, because what could the bronze come away with? Nothing. So therefore, it's all about point of comparison. The gold, yeah, that's what they wanted. The silver is thinking I should have had the gold, and the bronze is thinking I'm just glad I've got something. And that happens the same thing with our mobile phones. Some great reports out there which show that even having your phone face down on the desk is already giving you a dangerous point of comparison. So anybody who's got their phones on the table now pointing downwards, already you're thinking, well, okay, I might be listening to the speaker, but there might be something better come through on my phone. Maybe a message from a mum, or maybe an Instagram notification, or maybe some breaking news about Donald Trump that I need to read immediately. And therefore, then your life is not as rich because you're already thinking about what could be on the other end of your phone rather than what's in front of you at that very moment. Job satisfaction, mental health, all these things are affected mental health. Let's look at mental health first. So, you imagine you're at work and you're sitting there and a ping comes through on your WhatsApp, and it's from the WhatsApp family group, always the banes of everybody's lives. And on there is it's a picture of your son. Look, here's my son Sam, just in Pisa. He's in Pisa with his girlfriend, and the sun is shining. The Leaning Tower is looking incredibly wonky in that photo, even more wonky than it is in real life. And you're thinking, why am I here in Birmingham and it's grey outside and I should be in Pisa? And what happens is we blur our work and our life. We bring our life into work, and when we go home, we then take our work into our life as well. So the whole thing is all mixed up, and so therefore we're never really breaking away from making clear demarcations in our life that make our life more satisfied and more healthy. Now, in the olden days, when it was a lunch break at work, we used to go and sit in the canteen. And to be honest, as a former journalist, we used to often go to the pub. I know, shock horror. But actually, we used to get to know each other. We used to chat. We used to find out about people's lives, about people's children, about what we're doing for the weekend. Nowadays, we go and sit in a car and watch Netflix. Or if we are sitting with our colleagues, instead of chatting to them, we're just going through Instagram or finding out and doing some shopping on ASOS or booking our next holiday. So therefore then, what they're not doing is we're not building the rapport and the conversation, we're not getting to know our colleagues, which means then we're less likely to be happy at work, because after all, most of the time it's colleagues that keep us wanting to go to work, and therefore retention rates in companies are falling because people don't want to stay there because they don't really feel like they know anybody properly. So all these reasons, and they're often affected by phones. I know there's bigger picture and there's more things involving on all these, but phones are a massive culprit when it comes to us not enjoying our lives in the way we should be. So how can we be more Colin? How can we be more Colin? Well, the first thing is, and I think the biggest thing is, it's about mindset. I'm not here to say you need to spend less time on your mobile phones. I'm just giving you here an option of what else could be. My motto in life is to live life in all its abundance, and that doesn't involve spending hours on a phone screen. But it's a mindset. It's a decision. I want to change. I want to be different. I want to treat my phone as though I'm in control of my phone and not let my phone be in control of me, not let social media rule my life. So let's look at productivity and what you can do in productivity in terms of changing. So this screenshot was taken at 3:45 p.m. on a Friday. And you can see I've been on it 2 minutes, my phone, that day, which was an unusually low amount, even for 3:45 and even for me. But what was really important was I was needed. I was looking after the Splat the Rat at the summer fair, and nothing was going to get in the way of that. So I needed to make sure that I had done everything I needed to do. My list was complete. I'd rung everybody I needed to ring. I left work feeling like I'd just sorted out everything at 3:45 p.m. And how did I do that? Because that is where my phone lived during that day. So my office is behind the glass. I can hear my phone ring, but I can't pick it up and procrastinate and waste time and look at notifications that add no value to my life at all when I wanted to really be in charge of Splat the Rat. Keeping your phone away from you is such a good thing. 82% of us keep our phones on our desk. I was talking to a managing director yesterday. He has his phone in a cradle next to his computer. He said to me, Mark, yeah, I do have some problems being distracted by my phone. It was quite an obvious one, wasn't it, really? having a screen time widget on your phone is a really good way of keeping a track of it, because often I just don't think we realize just how long we're spending on our phones. So having a widget on there is really helpful. So I set myself a target of trying not to go over half an hour a day on my phone. Sometimes I do. Sometimes I don't. But it's there, at least I know where I'm up to. As you can see, the screenshot on the right is mine. I haven't got an Android. And then there's the way you can actually manage your phone itself, just in terms of actually, simple things like notifications, clearly, and there's do not disturb, but it's also about the way you lay out your phone. So you can see here are the first four screens of my phone. So I've got the things that are pretty important to me on the first screen, and then the next two are pretty much blank, even though it's got a screen time app on it, and then all the other stuff, all the distractions are all in the menu, so I have to kind of faff around to get there. But you'll also notice, look, I've got no email there. I've got no Safari there, because actually BBC News was one of my biggest issues. So I moved them. They're in here as well somewhere. In fact, there's Safari there. Hidden away. Because I don't need to have them interrupting my working day. So I've made decisions about what I think is a good thing in terms of my own health and using my mobile phone. Who hates being added to groups without the permission on WhatsApp? Oh, absolutely. Do you know in your settings, you can change it so people have to ask you permission first? That is a definite given. You all should have that on there. And also lock chats. Anybody use lock chats? Oh, nobody uses lock chats. Lock chats are amazing. So what you do with lock chats is, those big groups, like I've got there, I'm sorry, East Midlands Professional Speaking Association WhatsApp group, but it's in there. It's one of those groups where you get lots of people who might have conversations, and I don't want to be disturbed by it through the day. So what I can do, I can lock it as a chat, which means that if I want to see it, I've got to kind of do my facial recognition, and then click on lock chats, and it then goes into the chat. And then so in other words, I'm controlling when I look at it, not when it's controlling me. Again, it's just these little things that really, really help when it comes to managing your time on social media and on your phone. And then there's loads of great apps out there as well. This is one here that I really like called Opal, and I also mix it with another one called OneSec. So what happens here is I set Opal, what I do is I have downtime. So I actually have my downtime in the evening because that's more of an issue than it is in the daytime. Between 6:30 p.m. and 7:30 a.m., I cannot go into Safari and a number of other social media apps without going into Opal first and pausing it and snoozing it, and then only get a limited amount of time, and then I can go into it. But even then, when I go into it, then OneSec kicks in, and it says, Mark, are you really sure you want to go into this app? And it gives me 6 seconds to think about it. By then, I've lost the will to live. This has been a game changer in me getting my screen time down. Because you just don't pick up your phone and just look at these apps. Because you've got to go past all these things. So OneSec's on my phone the entire day. Both of them are free, both of them really, really good tools. By the way, at the end, I've got a QR code with everything I've said in this presentation. You can get all the details and the downloads and the links to how to do it as well. And then there's job satisfaction. How can we improve our job satisfaction? Well, I often think it's about us making that decision as a team. As a team, can we be more Colin? One of the things that I do in my life is that in our family, we have a basket that we keep in the kitchen, and all our phones get put in there, so we're not carrying them around the house with us. This is kind of the equivalent of a basket that you can buy on Amazon. Although I don't think you'll be as ecstatic as that woman was who's advertising it on the Amazon ad. But really good place to everyone put their phones at in one area. And one thing I forgot to mention was it's carrying around the notebook. The notebook, really useful thing. When something pops into your mind and you think, I really need to find out something, and instead of just going on your phone, just write it down on your notebook and then come back to it later. And when you come back to it later, you'll realize that you really didn't need to know what was the follow-up single to Kajagoogoo is Too Shy, or how tall is Taylor Swift. Although, how tall is Taylor Swift?
Taylor Swift is 5 feet 10 inches.
Taller than I thought. So all these things are in place for you to have a more balanced relationship with your phone. But I can tell you now, you will fall off the wagon. Because it's hard to maintain a relationship when everyone around you is on their phones all the time. In fact, sometimes, though, there's an element where actually phones bring value to your life. So this week I've been on holiday to Wales. And so I was on TripAdvisor, I was taking photographs, I was editing photographs. Therefore, my phone time was 2 or 3 hours a day sometimes. But I didn't mind that because I was using it for something valuable. Times will go up and down. Here was, I got half an hour a day on average, but the week before was 63% higher. I'm not saying to you that smartphones are a bad thing. Without smartphones, I would have got lost on the way here. I would find less new music and I would have no idea how fast I could cycle around Birmingham city centre. Smartphones are wonderful, but what I'm really passionate about is when they bring value to your life and don't detract from value to your life. So I'd like all of you to be bold, to be different, but most of all, to be more Colin. Thank you.